Welcome back to Iowa Live. Lou and Jackie here along with our good friend, the privacy professor. Rebecca Harold is here.
Hello.
We had to make sure that you came and paid us a visit because some big happenings in the world of data breach happened last week.
Yes, it was widely reported that the biggest breach of all time had happened. And actually what had happened was there's this site that's run by a guy named Troy Hunt, and it's called Have I Been Pwned?
Okay.
And pwned, P-W-N-E-D. That's the hacker way of spelling that.
Yeah.
So anyway, he put out this huge repository, and it contained, I want to make sure I get this number right, 2.7 billion rows of email and password combinations. 2.7 billion. That's with a B.
From where? Do they know, or just anywhere?
Well, this is what's so key to this. It was from many different data files that have been breached over the years, and it was put into one data file. And a lot of people who saw this, even security reporters, you know, they said, oh, well, it's 2 to 3 year old data, so we don't need to worry about it. And I don't like that, because think about your emails and your passwords. How often do you change your email?
That's the actual email address
your
itself?
Email
not
address.
very often.
Not very often.
I was going to say, any more work computers kind of force you to these days, but regular personal accounts,
Yeah.
Keep it.
the average is people keep it for quite some time.
They keep it. I mean, I've had one of my emails since 1995, believe it or not. So, and I have a lot. I have
the
a lot
privacy
of emails.
professor has a password that she's had since 95?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, an email since
An
95.
email.
Oh, an
not a
email,
password.
not a password.
Not a password.
Oh,
But with those
okay.
passwords, let me make a point about this too. So we have 2.7 billion with a B. Now guess how many of those passwords for all those combinations were unique, meaning it was only in there once out of 2.7 billion rows.
Probably not very many.
21.1 million with an M, and you might think, oh, there's not much difference. That's less than 1%.
Wow.
That's less than 1%.
So people are still using the common ones.
They're using the common ones, and
Like
just
Open
think of it.
Sesame and...
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
yeah.
But people are also using the same password for multiple
accounts,
emails. So I have around 15 different email addresses. And think about those emails too. What do you use your email address for? You use them as user IDs. You use them at your banks. You use them at credit card companies. So what's very important to know is, even if data has been out there for a while, each time more data is out there, even if it's only an email address and a password, you're still using it. And we shouldn't look at each breach that is reported and people say, oh, it was just my name or my address. We should look at this as cumulative breach events, meaning all that data is going to be thrown into a big pot with all this other data, and it gives more insight to everyone, because big data analytics and also artificial intelligence, it's used on that. So people shouldn't think that, oh, it's no big deal. You need to think about it, and you need to take a few actions to make sure that all of those breaches cumulatively in these huge repositories, and that repository that was talked about, I can tell you that there are even larger repositories of a much more sensitive data on the dark web.
Oh, on the dark web.
Because that's where they're combining them all together.
Now, this huge data breach that we had last week, did you have a chance to take a look at it yourself? Were you curious enough to take a look?
Yeah.
Did you find any of yours on there?
Email address.
You did find your email address. What about and the password was there?
And the passwords I've had in the past.
Yeah, an old one.
But here's the problem. How many people too, well, this is going to be one of my tips, so I won't go into it, but there's a lot of things that people need to think about with regard to the fact that all of this data is still data you're using, your emails you're still using, passwords you're still using. So if we can look at some of
let's look at some tips to kind of help us out today.
I want to point out some of the really important things. So, like, number one, use different passwords for different types of sites. I know people are using the exact same password for different sites. They might be using the same password with different email addresses, but use different passwords. Also, enable two-factor authentication.
That's a real pain.
It's
the two-factor authentication is a real pain.
It's a pain, but you know what? If somebody finds out your password and you have two-factor authentication, they can't get into your stuff
They
because
can't do anything
they
with it.
can't do that second step. They can't see your phone when they send you the text message with the
Right.
code in. So use that.
Use it, okay.
Use that. Also, change your passwords after breaches, even if it didn't involve maybe your business
So
or
if you
whatever.
hear about a breach in general, basically is what you're saying,
Change your
it
password.
might be a good idea to change
I
yours.
always do, because it's like you want to make sure that it's not going to be used elsewhere. That's something so important to think about too. People think, oh, there was a breach at this business or
This
organization,
bank or something, yeah.
so I don't have to worry
Right.
about it. But that all gets dumped to the huge repository that hackers use and use analytics on.
Wow.
And it can relate you based on your email address or your address.
Okay.
And then also, this is something I see so many people do. Urgh, it makes me so frustrated. I've seen this since the 1990s. People rotate their passwords. I've seen people, and I still see this, they have 12 passwords that they write down. Some of them give it to their
rotate.
assistant, and they go through and they rotate them, and they use them on every single one of their different accounts.
Yeah.
But they use them at different times because they rotate them. Don't do that, because guess what? When you have a breach, those passwords are going to be in that
All
big
done.
All right,
At
well,
the
I'm going to
same
ask you, since you have so many email addresses,
Yes.
and I thought I had a lot, I have 6, and I thought that was excessive, but how do you keep everything straight?
Well, I got to say, 6 of those are what I call throwaway email addresses. So these are ones I don't communicate with anybody with that I actually know. These are the things, if you want to get free stuff and they require, an email address, I use a throwaway one because I know I'm not using that for anything that I'm sharing with people I know or businesses. Sometimes those silly quizzes online, I take those because I want to see what type of information they're getting, but they almost always ask for your email address. So I give them a throwaway one because I know that email, if it gets breached, I'll just delete it and create a new one. And there's so many ways you can create new emails. So I encourage your viewers to have those types of throwaways too. If you just can't resist taking that fun quiz, sign up for a free email and use that only for the quiz, and don't use it for your bank or for your credit cards or your
It's a good
healthcare.
idea.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is all coming on the heels of something pretty special that's happening on the 28th that we've talked about before. So what's coming up on the 28th?
On the 28th, it is officially Iowa Data Privacy Day, and that coincides with International Privacy Day. And I'm really happy to say this is the 9th year in a row, and I first requested this of Governor Culver, and it's been every year since whoever was the governor in office agreed to have a proclamation.
So as Culver Brand said, no, Reynolds.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So that's January 28th.
Okay.
And definitely for celebrating that, you can, of course, come back and look at, what we're talking about today. And then I also have a radio show that I started.
Yeah, I want to talk about this too. What's this about?
So it's called Data Security and Privacy with the Privacy Professor, and it's on Voice America. And basically, I've been doing this since the last week of January last year. But you can go there and hear 1-hour segments, and I have different experts. In fact, my next show is about medical cannabis and adult cannabis security and privacy. I've done them on encryption, healthcare, student privacy, and so on. So all of my past episodes are there.
Great information. Obviously, the special day proclamation coming up on the 28th, but our privacy is something we should be thinking about every single day.
Every single day, and you can go there and listen to any of the shows you want, and that would be a good thing to do.
And if people want to ask you questions or communicate with you, what's the easiest way?
Probably to send me an email at to
Is it a
Rebecca.
good one?
Is it one of your ones you look at?
Is it an active one?
This is active. This is active. Rebecca Harold at RebeccaHarold.com or on Twitter at PrivacyProf.
Perfect.
She does answer that too.
Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
being
It's great
here.
to have you back with us on
Thank
Iowa
you.
Live.
Happy to be here.
10 minutes.